Welcome to the Speak the Language podcast presented by OnX Hunt. Turkey season is in full stride. Pretty much, there's a lot of states open right now that are hunting, have been hunting, just opened up. There's a couple states that haven't opened up yet, but they're close enough to open it up that I think it's fair to say that if you do any turkey hunting, you're thinking about it right now. That's the point where we're at in the year. Joining me today on this podcast is my beautiful wife, Lacey. Lacey, glad to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
Last time you were on this show, we were planning on we were going to have like a reunion of the first time that you were on the show. We were going to have Jordan and Jesse on as well.
I know.
To pitch in on this story. However, Jordan and Jesse had to bail out.
Bummer.
So it's just, you're just stuck with me today. It's you, me, and Knox, which Knox can't speak English. Otherwise, he would have something to add to this podcast too, I'm most sure. Maybe not. I don't know.
He's asleep right now. Probably not.
But things to touch on before we get to your exciting spring turkey hunting tale of the week. First things first, the Primos YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out Primos Hunting on YouTube, you need to do that. There's a lot of new content coming out right now. I think so far there's a couple Mississippi hunts. There's some Florida stuff from Jimmy, myself, and Jordan, and Jesse. Forgot about that one. And so, yeah, some new content getting loaded up weekly. So go to YouTube, type in Primos Hunting. Should be the first one to pop up. Also, check out OnX Hunt on YouTube. There's a lot of good stuff going in out there, as you can imagine. With an app like OnX and the applications that it has, we try to put out as much educational and entertaining material as we can. And so there's stuff out there right now about just really applicational uses within the spring woods, how to pinpoint a gobbler, how to use the 2-finger line distance tool in the spring turkey woods, how to plan out a turkey hunt, how to use the Hunt app to identify good turkey habitat, all kinds of good stuff like that. Also, if you haven't checked out OnX Hunt's Elite membership, there's a lot of people I'm learning that have an OnX Elite membership, but they don't take advantage of everything that it entails. One of those things are the Elite benefits. For example, talking about Primos Hunting, if you are an Elite member, you get 25% off anything and everything that Primos Hunting makes. And there's a lot of more deals tied into that as well. So check out the OnX Elite membership if you don't have one. If you do have one, make sure you're taking advantage of everything that it has to offer. So Primos Hunting on YouTube, OnX Hunt on YouTube, some exciting stuff going on for both. Check that out. Now that I have that out of the way, Lacey, let's get into it. I don't know if we even talked about this the last time you were on here. Did you ever entertain the thought of going turkey hunting prior to meeting me? Because I know your dad turkey hunts some.
Well, I think he used to when he was younger, because most of him taking me was always deer hunting.
Yeah.
I remember a few times he would get up and go turkey hunting, but I think just as he got older, he just stuck more with
the deer stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, and I know he likes his crappie fishing. Which
if someone
is like a diehard crappie fisherman, it usually doesn't tango too well with turkey hunting because they kind of coincide with one another.
Well, okay, yeah, I didn't.
There's a couple people that do both, but there's usually, if someone's a hardcore for either, it's one or the other. If someone asked me to go crappie fishing right now, I'm probably going to tell them to go float a rock, because why would I crappie fish when I can turkey hunt? You know what I mean? Well,
yeah, but for him too, I think him taking my grandfather, because he loves it just as much.
Oh yeah, he loves it. That's what I'm saying. So
that's probably a big part of it too.
Yeah, of course. So if you're into crappie fishing, then do your thing.
Yeah.
So you had not thought anything about doing
it? Wasn't like a bucket list thing.
Yeah. So, and prior to meeting me and figuring out how obsessed me and Jordan are about it.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I mean, that's a good way to put it. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Obsessed. Yeah.
All right. So where we left off, let's do this, because there's a small chance that someone that listens to this episode had not listened to the episode prior.
Okay.
So if you want me to do it or you to do it, we can give a super condensed version of I feel like you have to set up. You can't
set up the conversation.
Yeah, you can't just say what happened a few days ago with that turkey. You have to we have to at least kind of give a previously on Lacey's turkey hunting adventures to kind of let them, because if you don't have the first part, it's not nearly as significant. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like you get, so I mean,
well, it depends. If it's short and sweet, it probably needs to come from you because I'll go around in circles all day.
Okay. So Lacey and I were dating. This is prior to us getting married. Lacey expressed some interest in turkey hunting last spring. To my discredit and her credit, I honestly didn't think you were that serious about wanting to go. And it was like the last week of the season and you were like, hey, I really want to go turkey hunting. And I was like, oh, my bad.
Well,
like,
yeah. I was like, oh, why haven't you taken me yet?
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, you actually want to go. That's awesome. So we strike out and it's like, yeah, the first time that we went, it was the second to last day in the Mississippi season. I really wasn't expecting all that much because if you've hunted late season, especially in the Southeast, y'all can relate to this. It can be feast or famine, typically famine, at least on my luck. Like if I'm going to have like my best parts of the season at home are early season and up until the second or third week of April. That last week, I've had good luck there, but it's just not like I don't look forward to the last week of the season. So I didn't really know what to expect. And my standard of success was if Lacey and I go out there and it's a pretty morning and we hear a turkey gobble a couple times or even one time, I'll be satisfied, because that's just, I wasn't really hoping for much else. Well, we go out there and to my dismay, there is a turkey gobbling a whole lot. And, however, he was not gobbling much at us. Mississippi turkeys alone can be pretty crazy. This one may have been hunted a lot. I don't know. I know he was traveling a lot and he was gobbling a lot, but he wasn't gobbling much at us. But he was gobbling enough to let us know where he was. And so from the time that we heard this turkey at daylight to the time that we sat down on him and then sat down on him again and then sat down on him again, we probably moved our setup and kept up with that gobbler. I think we made like 4 or 5 different setups before ending up where we ended up. And before the last setup, I turned to you and I was like, hey, do you want to keep doing this? Because at this point, I think it was probably like 9 a.m. I don't know.
Maybe.
Somewhere mid-morning. And I have learned that I'll get so tunnel visioned on chasing a turkey that, especially if I'm taking someone that's new to it, like I can burn them out because they just don't want to go as hard at it. And so I was trying to be cognizant of that. So I was like, hey, do you want to keep hunting? Do you want to go back to the house? Like, what do you want to do? And you were like, hey, it's a pretty morning. Let's stay after it. I'm like, okay. So we make another move on this turkey. We end up setting up in a big, beautiful creek bottom. And I decided that I wasn't going to yelp at this turkey because he had been so non-responsive, and if he had been responsive, I couldn't tell if it was adverse or not. Like sometimes I'm like, is he moving away when I yelp? I don't know. So we had sat down in a spot in this creek bottom where I heard him hang out and gobble for a while and then drift off, and I was hoping he would just naturally want to drift back this way. Well, he goes to gobbling again. He's about just under 200, and my lack of patience gets the best of me, and I said, the heck with it, I'm yelping at him. And so I just had my mouth call, my mouth already. I just cluck once and yelp 3 notes, if I remember correctly. I mean, just real soft, real subtle. And I just, and the turkey didn't answer like immediately. It was kind of delayed. I yelped, and then 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pow, he gobbled. And it was as much of a delay where I was like, I don't know if that was an answer or not, but that was the closest thing I'd had to a response all morning. And so I told Lacey to sit up and kind of get halfway ready and face the gun that direction, and then he gobbles again and he's cut some distance. I'm like, heck, this may work. Well, I had no sooner gotten you to get ready a little bit, and then I go adjust myself and face that direction myself, and I hear you say, here he comes, I see him. Anyway, trying to condense this story, turns out it was not the turkey that we heard gobbling. When I yelped, a second turkey that we had no idea was there comes making his way into that creek bottom, comes to within gun range. We start having issues. Lacey, you can't get the gun to shoot. We don't know if it was an issue with the gun. We still don't know what happened.
I just know it wasn't my finger on the trigger guard because we went back and forth about that. But I will say once again, I had my finger on the trigger because I double checked.
So there's a bit of history there too.
Yes, with my first deer. That's what I did.
You going back to hunting with your dad. You had an incident when you were very much younger.
Oh yeah,
trying to shoot your first deer.
5 maybe.
And you couldn't get the gun to go off, and it turns out you were squeezing the trigger guard, not the trigger.
Yes.
And so, anyhow, the turkey comes all the way through this creek bottom, ends up at the first like wide opening was like 35-40 yards. He ends up all the way at 20 yards before he figures out something's not ginning, and he turns around and starts walking off. I wait for him to go behind a tree. When he goes behind this big oak tree, I spin around and ask Lacey, will the gun not shoot? She says no. I get the gun from her. I start looking to try to figure out what in the world's going on. The only thing that came to my mind is, did I not load the gun? Well, I breach the gun halfway. I see that there's a shell in there. I slam it back shut. By the time I look up, the turkey's 50 yards off my right shoulder. I spin and just shoot him. And to your credit, you were not very happy about those actions of mine.
I was unhappy.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
And like we've hashed out. If y'all want to hear like this, I'll just cut the story right there. The story in itself gets in full detail, has its fair amount of comedy. But we discussed all that in like deep detail with Jesse and Jordan on an episode that aired a month or so ago, something like that.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear that story in detail, but that's why this hunt that you and I went on just a few days ago was significant, because you kind of had a little bit of turmoil in your first turkey hunt, which I was one thing that I still hold on to this day is, as I was like, Lacey, you don't know, like there's so many people that get into turkey hunting and they go and they may hunt a whole season before they get to see that. I mean, to get to see a turkey do that. So, but needless to say, that happened on the second to last day of the season. We couldn't go the next day.
Right.
So you had a whole spring to just linger on that. And I'm sure you weren't just terribly happy and you wanted to make it right. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So, we planned to hunt. We planned this spring. I was trying to be better. I was like, I'm going to be intentional about this this spring.
Yeah.
Because I could tell you, I was like, you really want to do this.
Well, yeah, because exactly what you just said. It was like the second to last day, and I wasn't able to go again. And after it went last time, I just, I mean,
yeah.
That played into it for sure.
So, and so we scheduled a trip to go to Texas, and we planned it out. I mean, it definitely a focus of this trip was you getting a turkey, but we also, like, it was supposed to be a big fun thing because we scheduled a trip and it was supposed to be you and me, Jordan and Jesse, and then our other friends, Austin and Lenny Seals, who those two couples we just tend to hang out with a lot.
Traveled with them before.
Jordan and Austin and I all hunt together. Yeah, I mean, it was just supposed to be this big fun thing. So I was like, man, this is perfect. We'll have a fun hunting camp together. We'll go to Texas. We're like, with the main goal is for me at least, my main goal is Lacey shoots a turkey. The other thing we did, and we should focus on this a little bit, like we can't skip over this very important detail, is we put in some serious practice time, you and I.
Yeah, we did.
Because, again, like, to this day, as I sit here, as I live and breathe, if I'm lying, I'm dying, I do not know why that gun did not shoot the first time that turkey came in on you. I cannot explain it. I don't know. If I had been in a situation where I could be looking at you, I could have figured it out. But, again, with the turkey being out there in the wide open, I couldn't just look and see. But you and I were like, we're going to get you where you are comfortable with that gun. And so we did, I don't know how many practice sessions, 2 or 3, where we went out there and spent a couple hours shooting and getting you used to that red dot and everything.
Yeah.
And you did good. How did you, like, was there any sort, I mean, because you've killed some deer, but you hadn't killed a turkey, and you hadn't ever shot with a red dot sight.
Right.
Was there any sort of, like, big learning curve you had to overcome, or was it pretty just like, point, shoot, I got this?
I wouldn't necessarily say it was a learning curve. Maybe the biggest thing I can think of that would be different is just like getting comfortable with the different kind of setup. Because obviously, like with deer, you don't have to be sitting on the ground up against a tree or whatever trying to make it work. And so, I mean, I could be like out of a shooting house. I could be, I don't know, my dad would rig up something to put on the ground. And I'd I wouldn't have to prop the gun up using my legs.
Yeah.
That was different.
So
but
we did work on that too, because so the first time we went and shot, you sat on like it was like a double bull stool. So I mean, basically if you're not familiar with like a double bull tri-stool, it's a blind chair. It's not something that you would actually turkey hunt in if you're planning on sitting on the ground. I mean, because it's like lawn chair height. But we used that, and we used a trigger stick for your first time practicing. But then we made the transition to where you were sitting either flat on the ground using your legs and using your elbows to prop against your legs to help you get stable. And we also used the trigger stick some when you were sitting, and then we used a wingman chair. But my goal was to get you comfortable with shooting in all types of actual turkey hunting scenarios.
Sure. So, like I said, I think just getting used to the new setup was my biggest thing because, I don't know, I had practiced with my dad, a few years ago,
sure
back whenever I was still going regularly with him.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, maybe just kind of getting used to it again because it's been a minute since I've really target practiced, you know.
Yep.
I liked, I don't know, we went to Vans and got the picture.
We got some Primos. There's a Primos turkey target.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm very visual, too, so that probably made me much more comfortable because, obviously, where you shoot on a deer is much different than where you're supposed to shoot on a turkey. So, in every aspect. So, that really helped me be comfortable with, okay, this is exactly where I'm supposed to shoot when it comes to turkeys. Because you know me, I can overthink anything.
And it's like, it reminded me... Honestly, there's I've talked about this before, probably with Jordan, because I think it's been on this show. There's things that guys like me or Jordan or anybody that's been hunting for years, I talk about all the time. I started turkey hunting when I was 11, and I say that I didn't start turkey hunting until later on in life because I have friends that's been turkey hunting since they were 5. But you've been if I started when I was 10 or 11 years old, I'm 31 now. That's 20 years of turkey hunting, right? And obviously not all of that was hardcore because I was so young, but there's things that you pick up from doing it that long that you don't even think to teach somebody because it's secondhand to you simply because you've been doing it so long. And so it's easy for me to overlook the basics, aim for the wattles, because to me it's where do you aim for a turkey? Well, I don't even think about it anymore because I've been doing it for so long.
Sure.
Even though I miss my fair share of them, but you still, well, for instance, and this is not throwing shade at all, when we first brought those turkey targets out, you were inquiring about which way the turkey head was facing on the target, which is a fair question if you've never shot a turkey before and you haven't spent any time turkey hunting. And so I was like, well, I mean, it doesn't matter if he's looking away, if he's looking at you, sideways, as long as you put it on his wattles, that's a anchor point. That's a general good rule of thumb for where you aim to shoot a turkey.
Yeah.
But I got to where when we finished up that last practice session before we went, I was completely comfortable. I had full confidence in you. Had you gotten more confident?
Yeah. But I think too, something to add was more of maybe the learning part. Mm-hmm. So obviously the kind of bullet that you're using to shoot a turkey and to shoot a deer is completely different, right? So
yes.
And the type of gun, all of it. So
yeah.
For me, I'm thinking if I'm shooting a deer, I got to go in that spot,
Right.
And so I remember earlier on, whenever you took me out there, I was really trying to get right there, which that's the overall goal, but I was more hesitant to shoot until it was like absolutely just right in the middle. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. That's just what I had in my head. And then you kind of explain like pellets, where they go out. I was like, oh, well, duh. Yeah, like, that makes sense.
I told you, I was like, you're not shooting a singular.
Right. But that's just what I was used to. And I was like, right. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I forgot. So, yeah, that's something more of a learning curve, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if you spent more time hunting with a rifle, then, you know, shooting a shotgun is definitely different.
Right.
But, yeah. I mean, I hope you're not turkey hunting with a rifle. There's some states where that's legal. I don't support it, but there's some states where it's legal. Anyhow, so yes, we practice. We spend however many hours we have invested in you practicing. But when it was all said and done, I had full confidence in you. You were more confident. I remember you telling me you were like, I'm a lot more comfortable with that gun, which is what I wanted to hear.
Well, I was also loading it, unloading it, and you were. You know, you really want to make sure that I was fully capable of operating it.
Yeah,
so,
well, because
like by myself without you helping me.
Well, you know, because obviously gun safety is a huge part of that. But two, it's like in turkey hunting, and you figured this out, and we'll get more into this when we actually start telling you your hunt story. But there's so many times where turkey hunting doesn't go like you just exactly plan it to go. And so it's like you can get thrown into absolute madness at a moment's notice. And so I wanted, you know, if we're walking around and we have an unloaded gun and something happens, a turkey gobbles, we got to set up quick. I wanted to be able to go, Lacey, get ready. And you load that gun and not have to be reliant on me to do it. So, and you got to where you could do that as well. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you could fully operate the gun. You load it, unload it, safety, red dot on, red dot off, good to go. Yeah. Okay. So we go to Texas. Do we talk about the comedic part of Texas before we get to your hunt, or do you want to do that after?
You're talking about when we first arrive, and well, I feel like we have to.
Okay. So. The story of Texas is, and I'm not gonna call out any locations or anything like that because it's not. I don't.
That's not the goal.
Yeah, we're not. But you can only laugh at it now.
It definitely plays into the whole experience.
The whole experience
for me, especially
sure. For sure. So, like we stated, this was meant to be a kind of like couples turkey hunting trip. You, me, Jesse, Jordan, Austin, Lenny. Mm-hmm. Lenny couldn't come.
I know
because Lenny, if you listen to this, we missed you. Lenny couldn't come, and so it turned into it was just going to be you and me, Jordan and Jesse, and then Austin was still going to come because Austin likes to turkey hunt. Why wouldn't he? We roll up to this place that we were stated, like I remember some of the terms used were like the cabin, the 6 beds. I think it was stated as bunk beds, but
yeah, I remember you did mention that like on the way there, that you knew it was for 6 people and it was a bunk bed situation. Yeah,
and so we were like, okay, no problem. And then there were, we were supposed to supply our own food, no problem. We can do that too. But we roll up there. And see like this structure that, I mean, like, I'm trying to figure out how to
listen. I can just kind of give my version.
You go ahead. You go ahead.
Especially like, I don't know, any women listening to this, they could see maybe where I'm coming from.
Right,
so me leading up to this trip, I feel like I've kind of stayed in like a pretty broad range of places in terms of like hunting camps, because I can rough it if I need to. I've been camping before, it's fine. And then there's also places that are pretty like on the nicer side. I remember Kudzu with Primos, like that was a really nice place to stay. So I feel like I've had a pretty wide range,
big spectrum.
Yeah. So I didn't really know what to expect, but I'm like, I've roughed it up, like I'll be fine. Well, we meet up with these people in the middle of town, and we end up, going off road. We're on our way there. It's going to take a ways to get there off road, right?
Yeah.
So that alone, I was very glad we did not take my vehicle. We had talked about taking it.
Yeah.
I had gotten a new vehicle a couple of weeks ago, and it's much more roomy. It's better gas mileage. So like was like, yeah, we definitely take your car. Well, we got 2 guns in there, and we're like, probably not, because we had to fit a cooler.
So what we were trying to do is I was trying to. Well, I mean, like I take my truck everywhere.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was just excited because
I know.
We got you
I was good with it.
We got you a SUV, and it was new and it was comfortable.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but
I know.
it's still not quite as big as my truck. And
No,
so
it's not.
We started, but anyhow, we ended up taking my truck.
Anyway,
So.
And I was very thankful because when we pulled off, like, thank God, like, I'm not a car sick person, because I mean, it was pretty rough off road.
Yeah,
you know? But anyway, so having that, I'm like, okay, glad I didn't take my car. We're good. Well, then we pull up, and up on a hill, you see this kind of historic looking building, this house, like this 2-story house. It looks roomy, right? And so I'm like, oh, okay, like I could do that. You know, it's not the worst thing I've stayed in.
No problem, yeah.
Yeah. Well, then we like pull up on the side to this building of sorts, and I'm pretty sure there was a sign in front of it saying like, we're not responsible for any injury or whatever. And I was like, oh no.
Well, so like another thing too to try to like paint the picture is like basically picture like a really old, I mean like old
really old,
like used to be an operating cattle ranch kind of thing. So you've got like your big ranch house, you've got some old catch pens, you've got like an old water tank, and then there's this tiny structure that looks like it's been there it looks just as old as the other house, but it doesn't look like it's been kept up as much.
It doesn't look like it's been lived in.
Yeah.
Like at all.
And then throw this on top of there too, because we left this out. Like, so it was supposed to be the 5 of us, right?
Yeah.
Well, there was some confusion. Again, I'm not trying to call anybody out here.
Right.
So there was some confusion. And there were 3 other people on the same trip as us, supposed to be staying in the same place as us, that we did not know. They ended up being very nice.
Oh, yeah, they were fine.
And they were in the same situation that we were. Like, they thought it was
they were not the issue at all.
They thought it was just the 3 of them. And it shows up, and there's 5 people they don't know. And so all of a sudden, we're like, well, now there's 8 of us, but we're looking at this old but large house. We're like, yeah, we can make this work. Look how the big one.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the big house. We're looking at this large house, and we're like, yeah, this is no problem.
Yeah, like that would be fine. We'll have our own space.
Yeah, like 8 people can fit in here, no problem.
Yeah.
So we're looking at that, and then we get told, like, hey, see that tiny house, the one
little
like
building.
Go ahead.
Not
and
even a house.
unpack your stuff in there whenever you want. And so,
I know.
And the realization of what's happening sets in on the 8 of us right there. We're
really
like,
hard because too, we get out, it's 95 degrees. It's been a long day in the car. Well, for me, because for you can go in there like 17 hours going to New Mexico, right?
Right.
You're good to go. Me, that was almost 12 hours and I was at my max, you know? So I just want to prop my feet up, sit in the cool, you know, kind of relax for a minute. And so we pull up. So that's what makes it so funny. So we pull up, it's 95 degrees and we go in this building and it is hot. And I'm like, are you telling me there is no AC?
So this building, like, it wasn't even, I mean, like, it's not even 1,000 square feet.
No.
And we've got 8 people.
Yeah.
The door doesn't latch. There's
not from the inside.
It still doesn't latch from the outside either. It just had a hook. You just hooked it. You just put that metal hook and then you put, like, there's no latch.
Yeah.
So we walk in and there's it's super hot because we're in Southwest Texas.
Well, sure.
And it's 95 degrees. The room, like, you walk through and then there's the biggest room in the house. I can't call it a big room, but the biggest room in the house, and there's 6 bunk beds just
in there together,
all just stuffed into that one room. There's 6 bunk beds, and on those bunk beds and in the one single bathroom, there was some rodents left behind. Like, let us know they had been there. across all the bathroom and across all the
That's
bunk beds.
a nice way to put it.
I'm trying to be nice about it.
Well, listen, they not only left it there, but like in the bathroom on like the towels that were left for us to use.
Yeah.
They were on there. Where you like on the sink, it was all in there. It was in the shower, which I mean, like for me and Jesse, we looked at each other. We were like, we're sleeping in the truck. Like,
and
we're
so,
not.
Like, and I'll put this out there, and I feel like I would have been if this wasn't a wives trip, if it was just me, Jordan, and Austin.
Yeah.
I would have been surprised by what we walked in on, but I would have been like, all right,
Yeah.
But again, it was like, we had you, we had Jesse, we were supposed to have Lenny, and we're like, oh, good grief.
I know. I was like, oh no.
So now I'm like, and now I'm thinking, I'm like, I got to tell my wife that she has to stay in this quote house, whatever you want, this building. We have to share a room with 3 people that we don't know.
Yeah.
And again, I can't. The 3 people that we didn't know, very nice people.
Yeah.
Turned out to be very, but
it just kind of added to the situation.
But still, it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Because you just don't know each other.
You weren't expecting it.
Right.
Something else to add to the
right.
To that.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the living quarter situation. We're like, well, this is interesting. That's a wrench in that's a curveball we weren't quite expecting.
But honestly, though, like I said, I had like roughed it before. Was that worse than what I expected? Yes. But me and Jesse, we were still able to laugh about it even when we walked into it. We're really? But like it was fine.
Yeah.
We did make it work for the evening. So.
Right. So we do our best. We're like, we're going to make the best of this. We're going to make the best of this. We're going to turkey hunt tomorrow. And we're just going to make the best of it. So we scout around a little that afternoon. We figure out kind of some spots. And like, because we did, like, what we had to do is we had to like delegate like the group of 3 folks that we didn't know. They were to go to this area. Jesse and Jordan were to go to this area. And then you and me and Austin, major props to Austin for this because, and again, it's not like it being your first turkey, and again, knowing what happened last time, I wanted to be with you the entire time in case things got wonky, which they did. I'm glad Austin was there.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they think about Texas, or if they think about turkey hunting in general, they just think about a bird just marching right into the barrel, strutting and gobbling, and that's how it. And sometimes it works out like that, but I wasn't going to bet on it.
Yeah.
And so Austin knew he was going to have to tag along with one of the groups, and he was like, "Hey, man, it's Lacey's first turkey. If you want," he's like, "if you want to be just you and her, fine. But I'm just saying, if you want me there, like if I need to drop back or call or anything, and you can stay with her, I'm open." And I was like, "Dude, yes, please. That would be fantastic." So thankful to Austin for doing that. Mm-hmm. So we get up the next morning and head out for daylight. Obviously, the wind is a howling, and we find a spot where we were looking around the other day. We had seen like in the far distance. It was actually like where we actually saw the turkeys was off the property where we could hunt, but that was like some of the best information we had. We're like, well, there's turkeys close to here, and with all this wind, we didn't know if we'd hear any gobbling. So we set up, and we didn't hear turkey for a while.
No.
Like it was
like I could tell on yours and Austin's faces, like, oh no, like this isn't. Which for me, I mean, I know you had said like there's supposedly a lot of turkeys in Texas, right?
Yeah.
And so I just kind of took your word for it, but then like we weren't hearing much at all, and up until like I don't know, an hour ago, you showed me like this audio of like a morning of turkeys in Texas, and I was like, oh, like
so our buddy, a friend of ours, Logan Cook, he's been on this show before, like not while we were out in Texas, like today before we
like literally
podcast.
An hour ago.
Logan had put up a story from when he had been hunting in Texas, and it was before daylight on the limb gobbling time, and it sounds like turkey hunters, they'll know what I mean by this. When you think about Texas or Oklahoma even, and you think about Rios, you think about breaking daylight, and it just sounded like, I heard one of my favorite words I've heard described it as is chain gobbling. Like, it's like it just starts at one end and it just works all the way. It's just like blah 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 blah.
It just sounded like a giant echo.
Yeah, it just
like
never ends.
Yeah,
that's like one of the things that people go to turkey hunt these areas for, because it's just, you just don't get that in many other places. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to it myself, because I haven't hunted in a while, and I'm looking forward to you getting to hear it.
Right.
And we sit there and we're like, well, maybe we can't hear them because of the wind. Maybe they'll start gobbling later. But like, it gets full daylight and we end up just picking a tree and sitting down because it just, the spot just looks good. You know, we had seen turkeys close to there. We were kind of, you know, typical Texas, we were kind of in like this mesquite flat, and then there was these lone 2 oak trees kind of looking down into this open bottom. So there's an open area. I'm like, man, maybe they come here and strut. I don't know. Either way, I can't think of anything else but to just sit down here for a while and see what shakes out. And it was like, no, it was 8 o'clock. Because again, I mean, you could tell that me and Austin both were getting visibly frustrated as to like, why are we not hearing anything?
That, and a little worried.
Worried too.
Which for you, like, you were not the worrier in our relationship. So, so when I see you worry, I'm like, oh no, like, this isn't good. But, you know, you seemed more optimistic, which usually you are. You're positive Polly. So, you know, I just went with it.
Well, I was like, man, I just really because that's the other thing too, other than seeing, like, so when we saw those turkeys far off, it was late enough in the evening. I was like, they've got to be roosting close to here. And I just couldn't figure out. And there was a creek drainage running through not far from there. I'm like, there's got to be turkeys roosting. Like, has to be. But me and Austin were actually sitting there talking about it. We're like, look, we'll give this spot to, I think I said 8:30. And I was like, we'll give it till 8:30. And if nothing happens, we don't see or hear anything, we're going to go look. There was like 3 other spots that I had, like, while we were looking around, just kind of like stood out to me. But where we were sitting was like the best looking spot.
Yeah.
And so I was just astounded that we had not heard anything.
Right.
Even with the wind. It wasn't like intense enough wind that we shouldn't be hearing anything. Like, it was like we should have been hearing turkeys.
Right. And that was at like 8:10. And then Austin said, like, right after you had said we're going to sit and wait till 8:30. So it was like, I think he said 8:12 is when finally.
Austin was sitting there. He was saying something to me, and I heard a turkey.
Yeah.
And because I can't remember what Austin was saying, but I just said, turkey just gobbled. And Austin was like, are you serious? And I was like, unless I'm just making it up in my head, like, I'm pretty sure I just heard a turkey gobble. And the wind picked up a little bit like it always does, and we're just like trying to listen and look. And Austin's like, man, if you heard a turkey, he's probably not that far, which, fair point. Well, the wind lays down again, and I pull out my slate call, and I cluck and I yelp pretty loudly, and I don't hear anything. And I'm beginning to think, I'm like, well, maybe I did just make that up in my head, because every turkey hunter in the world has done that before. It's like, you want to hear a gobble so bad, you'll just manifest one. Manifest. But
that's another rabbit hole.
Yeah, it is. So anyhow, we sit there again, the wind lays down, and I tell Austin, I said, Austin, try your box call, because I'd left my box call in the truck, smart, and Austin had a tall timber Gabriel. And if you're like, that's like one of the most common things you hear folks say on a windy day is use your friction calls, which a slate call is, but oftentimes if you have like a really high end sounding box call, I feel like it carries more. And I'm like, Austin, hit that box call. And he hits that, he yelps on box call 4 or 5 notes, and turkey gobbles. And he gobbles that loud enough that time that all 3 of us hear him. And he's close enough that all 3, especially me and Austin, were like, oh crap. Because not only is he fairly close, but he's dead behind us, completely behind us. And so immediately I spring into, we have to move, and we have to move now. Because he's not, like, what's behind us is part of this, like, this kind of meadow kind of stretches around. Like, the way we're facing is looking into the meadow, but it kind of wraps around behind us. And and then we were kind of sitting on this old road bed, and we seen a lot of tracks and stuff, and so we were, not knowing what we were doing hunting this place before, we were thinking that, the highest probability is something comes out that way. Well, we were wrong, and the turkey gobbles behind us. Mm-hmm. And so I go to scrambling, like we got to spin around the tree because he's not terribly far and he's probably coming, just knowing how Rios are. Well, I crawl out and crawl to the other side where I can kind of look at the other side of the tree and figure out where to sit. And had I already told you to start crawling by the time that we saw him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before, right when you started moving, you were getting me to move pretty quick.
Okay. Because, it was close.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like under 100 yards close, but it was close.
No, because by the time that I sat on the first cactus in the story, you had just seen him come out. And so I had already moved.
When I saw him, when I first laid eyes on him, he's probably 150.
Yeah, like he was a ways out there.
Yeah. But again, because of the opening, it's like I didn't want him to be 150 and us not have moved around the tree yet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I see the turkey, and you're not like settled yet, but you're at least at the tree. Like, cause I had you sitting in a wingman chair, but we had to bail on that.
Yeah.
And I brought the wingman chair because I know that Texas is prone for cactus. That's why I brought it. And so I tell Lacey's at the tree, but she's not scooted around far enough yet. Like you haven't made far enough of a circle to be facing the right direction. So I'm like, you got to scoot around more. And I'm looking at him, he's behind kind of a cedar tree, and so I'm like, you can move, and so you scoot around more, and to my, I didn't know it, but you sat on a cactus.
Yeah, I sat right on it. Well, too, I didn't know this because, I hadn't spent much time out there, but they can be small.
Yeah.
Like real little. Like you can't even see it, but I found it. I found it real quick.
Yeah.
Sat on it.
And I didn't know it. And by this time, by the time the cactus incident happens, the bird's 100.
No, you can see him.
Oh, I'm looking at him.
I know.
No, I'm looking at him, but I'm saying he's not 150 anymore. He's 110.
What I'm saying is I saw that because I'm looking at you in a panic, please tell me I can move.
Yeah.
And you looked at me and you said, I'm looking at a turkey. What do you want me to do? And I'm like, this thing is in me.
Well, I didn't. You told me at first you were like, I gotta move. I gotta move.
I've got to move.
And I was like, Lacey, you cannot move. He's right there.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'm on a cactus. I'm like, oh. Yeah. Crap.
Yeah.
Luckily,
so I just kind of endured it for a minute or two.
Yeah. So luckily, this turkey got hung up on a cattle fence, and he, like I said, he was probably. He was over 100 yards, but he wasn't 120 yards. He was somewhere right in there, and in the open. The only he started pretty much walking back and forth down this fence, and when he would, every now and then there was some trees along that fence, he'd go behind them, and that's when you could move. Mm-hmm. And so he went behind this cedar tree, and he was strutting, so he wasn't fast walking. So he went behind that tree. I was like, okay, move. And so we'll get you you off the cactus. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness.
Praise God.
And get you pointed the right direction. And I think I'm like, man, we're in good shape. I was we made our move. Austin didn't move because he didn't have to, which is what any good turkey hunter would do. You don't make moves unless you have to because you don't risk them seeing you. But you and I moved around to where we could see the turkey and where we could kind of watch what was going on. You did have, because we weren't anticipating facing that direction, you had some bushes and stuff kind of in your way. But I was like, man, it's
to the right.
Yeah,
but it wasn't the whole view because honestly I had a whole lot of open space
to the left.
And I could see him just fine. So in my head I'm like, okay, if he stays on that path, I'm good to go. Right. I don't have to worry about anything blocking my view. I just need to make sure that I'm pretty set on him to where I'm not having to move a whole lot whenever he gets close. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah. Well, and it's what I'm saying is had we anticipated facing that way, mm-hmm. You still, it wasn't, I'm not trying to paint it up like it was man, it's going to be tough shooting through this, but I would have definitely cleared some of that stuff out.
To the right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Just trying to make shooting opportunities.
Yeah. Okay.
The left, I wouldn't have worried about it, but to the right, I would have cleared some of that out. But I was like, this is what we have to work with right now, because it's not like I can go clipping bushes when there's a turkey out there.
Yeah.
So we get you spun around, I'm like kind of crouched. I'm like halfway laying on my side / laying on my stomach behind this bush where I can still see the turkey and communicate with Austin. Because
you're to my right at that point.
Because now, like, me and Austin kind of being on the same page is I'm like, if we get the opportunity, I'm sending Austin back, like sending him to drop back, because this turkey is like, I don't know. He was hung up on that fence is what he was.
Yeah.
And again, he's right there. I'm about 110 yards, just strutting back and forth. And he's just kind of like setting his stake in the ground right there. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he was there a while.
He was. The hunt in its entirety, from the time that we first heard him gobble to the time of you shooting him, probably was, I mean, it was at least an hour.
At least,
maybe longer, possibly longer. But yeah, he goes back and forth for a while, and I try the typical Rio rule of thumb thing, which is like lay it on him pretty hard with the yelping. And he liked it as far as strutting goblin went, but he kept just marching up and down that fence. And so we went quiet for a little while. And he still, and honestly, when we went quiet, for a while, he would try, eventually he would come out of strut, he would pop his wings, and he would act like he was going to walk off. And every time he'd act like he was going to walk off, I'd yelp at him again, and he'd gobble and strut and then come start doing the same thing. And so eventually he worked his way far enough down the fence where he'd actually gotten a little bit further away, but he went behind this bigger clump of trees, and that's when Austin made the dash to get back behind us some.
Yeah.
And so Austin goes to calling back there, and I'm, selectively, still calling from where I'm at, but at that point I was only calling when he would like start to act disinterested. I would just yelp again to try to, bring his interest back, so to speak. I was just trying to think of anything that I could do. And me and Austin talked about this, like typically there's like a moment, like something happens, whether it's calling or whether they see something that you can kind of explain why all of a sudden they break and come. With him, it's like Austin had been dropped back for a while. You and I had been in the same position for a while, and we'd been doing the same thing for several minutes. And then all of a sudden that turkey was like, here I come. And, cause again, the whole thing took about an hour. Over 30 minutes of it was him at that fence. Yeah. Going back and forth.
For sure.
Cause when he started to come, it happened quick.
Yeah.
All out of nowhere, I'm watching through my binoculars, and he had moved far enough down the fence. He was probably back close to 150 again, but he just flies over the fence and starts marching directly at us. And luckily, it sloped down enough to where Austin was, he could move around, and he was blocked by the top of the hill, and he started drifting to the right, which is a problem because
behind where I couldn't see.
Exactly, because as we stated, to the left you're open, to the right you are not.
Yeah, because in my mind I'm like, okay, so he's coming, but I can't see him. So I'm like, how's this gonna work? But like in my head, it kind of got to the point I could tell from you, because you could see him better than I was, because you were further to the right.
Yeah. Well, another thing I had done is I had crawled up behind this like a cedar bush, and it was pretty much up on my knees. So I was up pretty high. Yeah. But I was behind this bush, so I was watching through the binoculars the entire time.
But still, like, you could see him better.
Well, yeah, that's why.
So, like, in my head, I'm like, okay, so from Lake, I can tell he's getting closer, but I could just kind of tell from you and just your reaction from it. In my head, I'm like, okay, he's getting so close to the point to where, like, if I can't get on him, we're just going to spook him, and I'm not going to even get a shot at him.
That's correct.
So that did go through my head, and I was getting a little bit nervous, but
well, I mean, that's what I was thinking, because of the way he was drifting. So when he first started coming to the right, and I was most sure that Austin was still blocked by the top of the hill, I turned around to Austin and I signaled for him to move to the left, because I'm like, he's got to pull this turkey to the left, or we're going to be in a bind. Yeah. So Austin goes to moving. And the first time that Austin yelped from that position further to the left, I thought it was going to work. Yeah. Because the turkey changed its course and started coming to the left, and I was like, oh, perfect. Like, you weren't going to have to move anything. Like, he was going to walk. That was the first time you saw him, I think, when he first started, when he was coming to the left.
Maybe, yeah.
I remember it, because you were like, yeah, I see him. And I remember after the fact, you told me, you were like, one time when he was out there, I could see him clear as day. Yeah. Strutting. And he came on the right, drifting to the left path, trajectory, whatever you want to call it, up until he was about 60 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought, like, the way he was walking, I was like, yes, this is going to work. Like, you weren't going to have to move. He's going to, anymore. He's going to walk out in this opening, and you're going to have a 30-yard shot in the wide open. Well, he gets to 60 yards, and he stops, and he struts, and then he turns to the right. And I'm like, oh, crap. Because not only is he like going the way he doesn't need to go for you, but now he's going to make himself where I'm between you and the turkey.
Yeah.
So he goes behind this giant bush, and I slump to the ground where I'm on my belly, and I like backwards belly crawl out of the way where
somewhat. Yes.
Somewhat. So
from what you can tell.
Yeah.
Because what's going through my mind, like, I had already started to move at that point because I could tell, I'm like, there's no way I can get a shot at him if I stay where I am. Yeah. So I go ahead and move. And then
Good instincts, by the way.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You did.
Well, so I finally get settled there and, past all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. What was that again? A mesquite tree?
It was a fallen down mesquite tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, really the only opening I would have, I try to get to where I can aim over there.
Sure.
Well, you were, trying to get out of the way, but still I'm like I'm an OT and I work with neurological patients, and a lot of them are spinal cord injuries and traumatic brain injuries and, gunshot wounds.
You don't want to shoot me.
No. Well, I mean, it's really sad, but like I have a fair amount of patients that are my patients because of hunting accidents. And that was the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, nope, we ain't doing that.
Could you have ever shot him?
No.
Okay.
Not if he was going to be right there.
Well, no. I'm like, if I was not there, could you have shot him any sooner?
No.
I didn't think so.
Because I couldn't even see him.
I didn't think so. I was like, but I knew still, like, where you ended up shooting him, I knew I needed to get out of the way of that.
Well, yeah.
So, but
I was prepared to not shoot at all because I'm like, I'm not chancing
Well,
that.
There was one just because of the way that he, like, and when I say, like, he was drifting so perfectly to the left, and I'm thinking back on it, like, I don't know what made him change course like that.
Yeah.
But, like, he just stopped and then was like, I'm going right.
Yeah, just super weird.
And so he starts, and, like, there were times, like, because of where I was, like, I was like, man, if Lacey was sitting right here, this would be a done deal already. But this was when I was trying to, like, crawl my way out of the way.
Yeah.
So anyway, he goes up, he's out of the meadow, he's in the trees, and he's in this little pocket of trees. He's basically in the same pocket of trees that we're in, but there's too much thick stuff. Like,
like I couldn't see him at all.
At this point, he is 30 yards away. Yeah. 35 at most. Mm-hmm. Drumming, strutting, directly in line with us, but there's too many trees in the way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, honestly, in my mind, I'm like, this may not work.
I was like, this could go really bad.
I was like, because it's like, there is a chance that he keeps walking and he comes, like, if he came out of that pocket of trees continuing on his path, then he walks out into that roadbed. And if he walks out into the roadbed, you got him.
Yeah.
But the way he was acting, I was like, man, he could sit there in that thick stuff. I say thick stuff. It wasn't like but thick enough where we couldn't shoot him.
I couldn't see him through it.
Right.
You could, I think.
There was some cedars and some small bushes in the way. He was standing under some bigger trees. And I was like, that sucker could stand there and drum and strut for a few minutes and then just walk out of our lives.
Yeah.
And so, and Austin was looking at the turkey from where he was dropped back from. And so he couldn't really yelp anymore because it would, the turkey would be looking at him. And so trying to, like, we weren't at all in an unsafe position where Austin was. Like, if you're from where the turkey was, if where the turkey was now is 12 o'clock, Austin was like at 4 or 5. So he's not even in the what? But he is in the turkey's line of view. So that's why he stopped calling.
Okay.
But so all I could think to do is we were blocked from this turkey. He couldn't see us. So every time he would drum, I would just yelp really soft. Just answer his drumming, essentially, just like yelp as soft as I could. And and I kept going, can you see him? Like, I thought you were getting annoyed with me at once because I was like, can you see him? And you were like, no.
Well, I was.
Yeah. I was like, can you see
I
him?
was annoyed. But it was because, like, I don't know. I'm trying to keep it together, and I'm doing okay. Like, I feel pretty good about it because I'm set up to where, like, if he comes out at all, like, I can see him.
And I, like, I was nervous that he wouldn't come out, but I was like, if he just steps out in that open, I knew you had a shot. Like, I knew that. But
with you asking me, because, like, I don't know, you're only like this in the hunting setting, but, like, when you're all worked up, you know, it's like you're super worked up and you're just, I don't know, I think in your head you're just kind of like, oh yeah, can you see him? But you're like, can you see him?
Oh no, I'm aware of how I am. Yeah, but it's like,
it's fine. But in that moment, I'm like, no, like I can't, and I can't move. So in my mind, with me being annoyed, it's like there's nothing I can do right now.
Well, in my and I explained this to you afterwards. I should have explained it forward. Like when I was asking, can you see him? It wasn't like a can you kill him right there. It's just I like to know that whoever I'm hunting with is like. Because, like, the sooner you can get your eyes on him, the sooner you can draw a bead on him when he does get in the open. Yeah. You know? And so I kept on, I was trying to, like, he's coming more to the right. He's coming more to the right.
But I think a little bit, too, like, it wasn't just you. It was me knowing that you can see him, and it's frustrating that I can't.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, so, I mean, it wasn't just you.
Because, again, like... To reiterate, like all this is happening when the turkey is 30 yards away.
He's right there, and I didn't even see that he was right there, but just by your reaction, I knew he's right there. Yeah. Like he's super close.
And at one point, like just doing what a turkey does, he would strut and he would come out to the right a little bit, and I'm like, okay, he's about to come out, and then he'd spin around and he'd go back. At one point, he spun around. He never came out of strut, but he spun around and he marched far enough back to the left. I was like, that's it, he's gone. But I yelped again, and he turned back around, and then finally, like I was watching him through those bushes. He broke out a strut and he started walking, and I think I told you I was like, he's coming out, like he's coming out.
Yeah, I think you did.
And
right before you said, kill him, kill him, kill him.
Yeah, and so it was like for me, it was like a moment of. Are we like we're like it was a moment of this is going to define whether we kill him or not.
Yeah, because like it's happening
because
now.
For me, he steps all the way out in the open, and I asked you again, can you see him? And like if you said no, I was like, well, this is done because like he reached his point. I was like, I didn't think he would gonna come out too much more. Maybe he would, but I was like, if she can't see him there, I'm gonna be really worried. But you were like, yeah, I see him. I was like. And then I said, kill him really fast 3 times.
Yes.
What did it sound
quickly. Like what I just did. Kill him. Kill him. Kill him.
Okay. I didn't say it that loud, though.
Okay.
You did not say it that loud. It was a whisper.
Okay.
He
started to look around, though. He might have heard you.
He didn't hear me.
Okay.
He was looking the hen that was yelping.
Okay.
He was not looking, like, he wasn't looking at the kill him.
Okay.
But I was saying kill him very excitedly.
Yeah, you were. But, you know.
Yeah.
Did the thing.
Yeah, you shot. And then, could you see the turkey fall?
No, but it all happened so quick. Like, I have a very vivid picture of looking through the scope at the turkey, and I'm right on him. Yeah. And I felt really confident.
Yeah. It is an optic, but it's a red dot. There's no magnification in it. Like
just what I'm saying is like I just have a very vivid picture of that, even still in my mind. Like gotcha. Even the direction he was looking, because I don't know. I just knew that I had him, and I was comfortable enough, even with like propped up on my legs, my arms, that we had practiced. Like I just felt really good about it. Yeah. But the second like I shot it, I didn't even. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I didn't look or, I mean, all I remember is just you yelling, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I mean, and so I just kind of took your word for it. I was like, oh, okay, I got it.
Well, I'm like, for some reason, I never, like, I didn't like, it wasn't a thing I planned, but I have a habit of yelling, yes, sir, when somebody shoots a turkey.
I know. I've seen it.
And so I thought, like, I had like a very short passing thought on the drive out there. I was like, when Lacey shoots a turkey, am I going to yell yes, sir, out of habit?
Oh.
And I didn't even think about it. Well, I didn't even think about it. It's just what came out of my mouth.
You did have to think about it. I'd be worried.
True. Fair point. But yeah, I was like, because like I've said that so much, I'd be like, yes, sir. Oh, wait. But.
Yeah, that'd be kind of a weird moment. But it was good, And so no, I didn't see him fall. But I just heard you, and I just kind of knew. But too, kind of the angle at where I was, though, like, I couldn't see his whole
bushes
body
and stuff. Yeah,
I couldn't. But I mean, I definitely saw like the wattles, and they were up. Yeah, like clear as day.
You saw everything you needed to shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And you whopped him. I mean, he didn't nearly flop until we got up there to him, and I picked him up.
Right.
But yeah, first turkey. Mm-hmm. Would you do it again?
I told you I would.
Just I'm asking for the listeners at home.
For all the listeners. Right?
Yeah. Would you do it again?
Yes,
because I mean, like I like to think about there's folks that listen to this show that have experienced, taking their wife for their first turkey. There's folks that have girlfriends or wives or whatever that have not taken their wife turkey hunting and are thinking about it. There may even be wives and girlfriends listening to this that are thinking about, well, do I want to go turkey hunting with my wife, with my husband or my boyfriend? Yeah. And so I like to give the feedback, the full length of the discussion, so they know what to expect. And it's like I told you, because I remember you were like, man, we had to move around so much, and I was like,
well, too, granted, like I'm used to deer hunting, and it's like you stay put pretty much. Yeah. Like in my experience. So, but even before when I had gone with you last year, we moved a good bit. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty prepared for that. I think the cactus was the least favorite part.
That's a Texas wild card for sure. Well, not just Texas. I mean, you can run into them in New Mexico and Oklahoma. But yeah, it's something you weren't expecting.
And that wasn't even the only one. Yeah. Like later on in the day, I dead set on another one, a bigger one.
Yeah.
So
you sat on a great big cactus.
I did.
But yeah, and I told you, I was like, man, the turkey coming from a way you don't expect and having to readjust and move around the tree and make it work, like that's turkey hunting. That's just like sometimes you get those ones where they just march right down the gun barrel, strutting and gobbling, and
straight to you.
Believe you me, those are welcomed and appreciated, but that's not majority.
Even I told you, like, in the way that I think, like I'm an overthinker, like I'll overanalyze whatever, and like when we went the first time, that's pretty much what happened. He was coming straight at me.
He was.
And I just remember being like starting to really overthink about like where that red dot is, and just being real, I don't know, like I feel like with me staring at him for so long, I had almost too much time to think about it. Versus this time, like I had seen him and then he went away for a minute and I knew he was close, but I couldn't really see him. And then like the second I had my eyes on him, I just aimed and shot. Yeah. And for me, in the way that I think, not all women are like that, obviously, but just for me, it kind of ended up being better that way.
There's men that overthink too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, sure. But just like for me, in the way that I think, it was better that way. Because if I'm just staring at it and it's coming, I'm just like, okay, I'm ready. And I'm looking, I'm like, oh, boy, am I ready? Yeah. So, I don't know. It ended up being good. And
ended up being great.
Yeah.
I mean, it ended up working. Tell you how great it worked out. Like, I mean, I remember, like, so you shoot the turkey. We have this huge celebration. I was ecstatic. You were ecstatic. Yes. Austin was ecstatic.
Oh, he was just as excited.
Austin was pumped, man.
Yeah, that was sweet.
It's one of the hallmarks of a good friend and a good person.
Well, yeah.
They can get that excited.
I think it would have been like anybody that, I mean, Lenny couldn't go either, but I mean, like anybody that was on the trip, they would have had, I know they would have had the exact same reaction. Yeah. So, they're just a good group of people.
So we did what we didn't get to do the last time. We picked up the turkey. Yeah. We went back. We brought him back to the tree we shot him at. You shot him at. And, and we sat down under the tree and we just appreciated the moment for a little bit.
Yeah.
And talked about it and laughed and joked, and then we toted him out of there. Mm-hmm. And I remember me and Austin did have some discussion. We were like, man, I still can't believe that's the only turkey we heard. You know, like couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. And so we load the turkey up. We head back to, quote, camp. We head back to the structure where all of us were staying. And when we pull up, like, everyone's back. And it's only like...
It was early.
It was 10 a.m.
I'd say it's about 10.
Yeah. And so I see everyone back, and I'm like, oh... Like, man, everyone else had a good morning. They, you know, they're back
Happy day.
They're back this early. I bet Jordan and Jesse got one.
Yeah.
I bet the guys that we didn't know, I bet they got one. We pulled back up to camp, and we was the only one that heard a turkey.
Yeah. I was like, oh.
I mean, we don't have to talk anymore about the trip. That's kind of, I mean, like the good news of the trip ends right there. But we found out real quick. We were like, man. At first, I mean, we were plenty happy about that turkey already.
Oh, yeah.
But then we were like, man, I'm glad we heard that one turkey.
Yeah. For real.
But yeah, made it happen.
Yeah.
And you will go do it again, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I didn't even try to shoot him. Never even reached for a gun.
I know. Yeah. Well, too, there wasn't really a gun for you to grab.
No,
either.
yeah, I tried.
Good intentional placement there.
Yeah. I was like, not, yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, so I'll hype you up a little bit and give you some.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So we went out again to try to get me another one, same day.
Yes.
And we came across someone who was acting super finicky, and we had followed it around for a little bit. You and Austin were calling to it, and just we were kind of going in circles. And you said that you wanted to do a different setup where Austin, you know, stays back while you kind of go for it, get up close to it, see what you can do. But you looked at me though, and you said, "Do you care if we do this? Is this okay?"
Yeah.
And I was just like, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate that because, like, I mean, I had my turkey and, like, I was fine, you know, even so. But you did ask. And so I was like, see, like, a lesson has been learned, and I appreciated it.
We did. That turkey was acting wonky, which we found out or put together that turkey had been the turkey was in a different spot from where we started hunting that morning. Obviously, this was later on in the day. And we found out that that turkey had been missed and then spooked in 2 separate occasions.
Right.
And I was like, oh, no wonder he's acting crazy.
I mean, it was so odd. Like,
but anyhow, we don't need to.
Okay.
We don't need. So, ended on a high note.
Yeah.
That was you got your first turkey. You had a great hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're going to end this episode. I was super ecstatic that it happened, and I can't wait for it to happen again.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts? I'll tee you up. If there is, in fact, if there's a boyfriend or husband that's thinking about taking their significant other, or if there's a wife or a girlfriend that's thinking about going, what would you tell them?
I mean, like, for me, in my perspective, I'll say it like this. Like, obviously, I love you a lot, and this is, like, your favorite thing to do. And I'm all about some quality time. Like, I don't really care what we're doing, right? Mm-hmm. But I kind of grew up in the hunting atmosphere anyway, especially my dad's side of the family. And so, even though it wasn't, like, on my bucket list, I'm like, well, if I love him and he loves this, like, more than anything in the world, other than me, obviously, then, like, I want to see, like, what it's about. I want to see why you love it so much. Because, I mean, if it interests you to that capacity, like, I would like to be a part of it, or at least give it a chance. Because if I'm all about quality time, everybody's, quote, love language, whatever you call it, is going to be different. But for me, that's definitely mine. So, I don't know. And it's just fun, kind of, doing something different together. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not just, I don't know. Like, I mean, I love our date nights and everything else, but as far as, like, quality time goes, like, I enjoy getting outside.
Yeah.
I just did a little more of, like, I did hunting whenever I was younger, but especially into college, my outdoors setting was more of, like, taking hiking trips and stuff. So I don't know, it was good, new experience. And anybody listening that's thinking about going, I mean, I definitely encourage you to. And I mean, if you don't like it, you don't like it. You know? I mean,
yeah, for sure. If you went that one time, and there wasn't, like, if we went that one time, didn't get a turkey, whatever, and you weren't that about it, I would be a little bummed out, but I wouldn't be like forcing you to come back again. You know, it's like, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But one thing I would say, thinking about if there's someone out there, even if it's not a wife or a girlfriend, if it's you thinking about taking a kid or a friend that hasn't been, one of the biggest lessons I learned between the first time we went and this season is like kind of what I talked about earlier. Do not take for granted the things that you know that you learned growing up that now just feel like second nature to you. Like, there are absolute essentials that are basics to hunting, but they're things that if you haven't been taught them because they're specific to turkey hunting, you wouldn't know. And so it's like things like aiming at the wattles, things like getting comfortable with a red dot, all these things, you can't slack on those. So like, because I think getting you comfortable with that gun was absolutely key.
Well, it was for me too, because I don't know, I can, depending on the situation, like I can get a little anxious. So, I mean, just knowing that I was fully capable of doing it. Like, I didn't have a question pop up with like, well, if this happens, what do I do?
What do I do? Yeah, you knew what to do.
Yeah, because I mean, I very well could have done that.
Because I remember, one time I remember asking you, do you have the safety off? And you were like, yeah. Like, you'd already had it off, ready to go.
Right.
And the timing was right. Like, you know, if you hadn't hove, I'd have been like, oh, crap, well, get it off. You know? Sure. So, but overall positive experience for sure.
Something else I will say though. So like on the way, you had given me a mouth call.
Oh yeah.
To try.
Yeah.
And I just could not. Like Jesse said, I sounded like a turkey with COVID, pretty much, which was accurate statement. But
it wasn't great.
It was bad. Yeah. It was real bad. It was comical. We were all laughing about it, but just, I don't know, appreciating that a little more for me. Like, I was like, I couldn't even get it positioned right in my mouth. I almost choked on the dang thing. Like, I wanted it out. I was like, I give up on this. But I'm also very impatient. But, I don't know, just like the way that you basically talk back and forth. With the turkey, like that was pretty cool.
It's
like,
one of the most.
I'd heard you do it before, but just like me trying to do it and it being real bad, and you obviously doing it to the point where like it's believable was. Yeah, that was cool.
That's one of the for me at least, and for a lot of people, that's one of the most attractive aspects of turkey hunting.
Well, because unlike, I mean, deer hunting's fine, but I mean, you don't communicate with it.
Not like that.
No.
Not say, I mean, there's deer calls, and you can call deer in, but it's not. It's not.
It's different.
I use this word a lot. Some people think it's goofy, but I stand by it. It is a more intimate style of hunting, because especially like if you, I mean, you don't have to, but if you dive into it as deep as like someone like me or Jordan or like several of the other friends I have that are as into turkey hunting as I am. Not that I'm anything special. I just love to do it a whole lot. I'm not trying to pump myself up or anything. I'll never say that I'm some great turkey hunter, but I will say I love it a whole lot.
You are, though.
I'm not going to say that.
I'll hype you up.
But I love it a whole lot. And so when I say it's a more intimate style of hunting, I mean it is in like you spend however many hours learning that animal's behavior. To where it's like I can, like the way that I called when I first started to the way that I call now, like there's so much more thought put into it, like looking at what that turkey's doing and trying to think, like it's just a lot more cerebral, which some people think is goofy, and I'm fine with that. But I mean, like literally communicating with that bird is one of the reasons I and many other people love it so much. But yeah. Huh. We said we were going to wrap it up, and then we talked for another 15 minutes.
Well,
that's all
it's me and you. So
that's all right.
We do that.
So, this was, it was a great hunt. Can't wait to do it again. If y'all have any questions, as always, don't be afraid to send them in. And we'll catch y'all back here next week. As always, thank you so very much for listening to the Speak the Language podcast presented by Onyx Hunt.